Friday, at which time Telltale Games basically imploded. They have not ceased to exist as a company just yet, but they laid off the vast majority of their workforce.
Like 200-ish people.
250 people.
Well over 200. I want to
250. You're going to remember that.
Yeah, it's too soon. I want to say it was like 250 total, and they laid off like 225, something like that. But yeah, it sounds like the end came pretty quickly and unceremoniously. Nobody really had an inkling this was happening until they all got called into a meeting Friday morning, told they were all being let go, and then had like 30 minutes to vacate the building.
Jesus.
And apparently you had like their company Google accounts were shut down while they were in that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God.
And nobody got any severance, and they got like 9 days of health care.
God damn it.
And they're like, all right, thanks for your service. See ya.
Yeah, there's some of the stories coming out around this are terrible because there's like someone who just started last week and moved across country to do so. Someone who's here on a visa that has to basically get out of the country in a few days. Like, you know, there are a lot of...
Any number of people probably living paycheck to paycheck who now no longer have a paycheck.
There are a lot of pretty nasty personal stories around the edges of this thing.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, like there have been a lot of stories about Telltale for a while now. Sure. They had a pretty significant layoff a while ago.
I think it was last fall.
That sounds right.
Earlier this year.
It might have been.
I want to say it was late last year.
Yeah,
they laid off
you might be right.
90 people or something.
Yeah, and yeah, man, Telltale went from like making that first Walking Dead season to suddenly they had a ton of teams up and like they were just on the huge hiring spree. They moved buildings like twice over in a very short period of time because of how many people they were bringing on, and you never saw the tech change to fix the problems that were kind of inherent to everything they put out. And signed all these deals, did all this, it's just the whole thing.
Batman, Minecraft,
Borderlands,
Game of Thrones,
Game of Thrones. And the whole thing just always looked like a house of cards to me. So I guess like this, I guess what I'm saying is like this doesn't surprise me. It is shocking how quickly it happened, but nothing about Telltale seemed stable to me.
I mean, I guess I just assumed that all their stuff was doing fine because they kept signing more stuff.
Yeah,
but apparently it was not selling as well as we thought.
People have tried to piece together like Steam data and which is less reliable than it used to be.
Yeah.
But people have tried to pick together some kind of ownership data that definitely didn't paint a strong picture of some of Telltale's more recent or basically everything since that Walking Dead season blew up.
Yeah.
But yeah.
A story came out on Variety late yesterday, trying to dig into some of the stuff a little bit. None of this is 100% confirmed, but they seem to think that a round of funding fell through at the last minute.
Yeah, I saw that.
That they had made a deal with, I actually didn't know about this. They had made a deal with Netflix at some point to bring their Minecraft stuff over to Netflix.
Minecraft is the story mode, right?
Story mode, yeah. But like literally going to run on, like work on the Netflix platform, which sounds insane. But apparently they were working on. Anyway, point being, like they were making moves with straight up entertainment companies and not just.
Yeah, and this is something I want to say there are other companies out there that have deals with Netflix for things that are not necessarily just linear, straight up video content.
But in that context, the story on Variety is that they were talking to Lionsgate about receiving a round of funding, and then they basically pulled it at the last minute.
Yeah,
and that left them in an untenable financial position. That's the word.
Yeah, and for a little bit, it seemed like that was going to be the only thing that remaining skeleton crew was going to be working on, was finishing out that Minecraft Netflix stuff.
Yeah.
They initially announced that they were going to not finish The Walking Dead, which this was supposed to be the last season of.
The final season.
So I guess episode 2 of that is coming out like this week, I think.
Yikes.
Or next week. It might be today.
And then, today they're talking about possibly getting some sort of team together to finish The Walking Dead, and you've got people out there saying,
hey,
like,
they had some people.
Yeah, A, you had some people. B, pay those people severance before you spend any more money making these other video games. You had people out like Corey Barlog out there on Twitter, saying like these people got no severance, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually, maybe we are going to keep making video games. It's just a really gross look.
Yeah, that looks bad. I mean, my fear is the ship has sailed on that already, because if they don't have money,
Well, there's not like outside special interests coming in to help fund.
Right.
Yeah,
stuff.
it's saying like, oh, we could help you finish that for some cut of this, or it's
Scabs.
Yeah, pretty much.
Scabs.
gotta have a union before you can have scab.
That's true.
There have been some pretty sharp criticisms of the management at that company going around for the last few days.
Fucking last year, like just
Well,
few
yeah,
days,
of course,
shit,
of
man.
course. But what I
Like,
mean is, people are speaking with a candor now
Yes.
that they were not
yeah,
when they
now,
were
now
still
that they are no longer
employed by
there
Telltale
and are in the midst
They-
of the shock
Yes.
and all that sort of stuff. Yes, you are seeing it come out in a much more open fashion.
Yeah, just a lot of descriptions of like perpetual crunch, spending your whole life at
just
studio,
like
just
former
like
employees just going directly at the CEO of that company on Twitter, going at Pete Hawley.
Well, I feel like most of it has been pointed at the. I mean, he may not be blameless in the situation, but most of what I've seen has been pointed at the previous CEO that was forced out last year.
Seen it both ways.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
The claim is that this new guy, they were actually promised they were finally going to pivot to new technology and like make long-term investments in the future of the company
Yeah.
instead of just moving from project to project in this breakneck fashion. Who knows if that was actually happening or not?
And I think the tech stuff definitely, like you'd hear just enough stories each time they put out a game of someone going like, oh, this choice I made, it actually did the other thing, or my save didn't import, or there was always just enough of that on one platform or another. They're like, at some point I was just like, I'm not interested in their games, because if they can't get that's the thing they do that's different from the average adventure game. The storytelling, obviously, but like if that part wasn't right, like I wasn't gonna risk it. It was just like, forget it, man.
Yeah, I had a bunch of problems with the first season of Walking Dead in that vein.
Yeah, it never sounded like it got completely fixed.
Yeah. Even picking up later seasons like The Wolf Among Us and even the Batman stuff, like never really ran all that well.
Yeah.
And that was a continued problem.
And also, I think
it kept me away from a lot of their stuff.
Also, it was just limited in what they could do. The framework was not
Yep.
there to really to hear some of these people that work there tell it. Like they couldn't like tell the types of branching interactive stories they wanted to because they just didn't have the platform for it.
I wanted an overhaul of that tech so bad.
And it sounds like, like you see people saying like, we would crunch to meet one deadline and then immediately be in the middle of crunch for the next deadline as soon as we finished it. Like it was just,
Yeah, they were
there
juggling
were
so many different
and
projects.
they were trying to do this episodic stuff and trying to hit the pace that an episodic game requires without necessarily having all that stuff planned out ahead of time the way you would need to hit those marks to begin with. And that's what it always sounded like to me. I wasn't there, so who can say? But yeah, man, it never sounded like a great place to work.
Yeah. The story has kind of lurched its way to clarity over the last few days. Like it was actually reported first Friday morning that it was shutting down completely, and then people revised that and said like, no, they're retaining a skeleton crew. They said they weren't going to finish Walking Dead, and then late yesterday they said, oh, maybe we'll make something happen.
That's the part
then,
where it's like, hey, what the fuck? Like the Netflix stuff, like on one hand I get it, because I bet Netflix is like probably paying pretty good money to be like, hey, we need to test this stuff out, we need to build this out, like we want to get this stuff on the platform.
Also,
I
if they're
bet those
porting,
deals are somewhat lucrative compared to some of the other stuff that they have done.
Also, if they're porting an existing game, that maybe
is
less of a tech hassle than it would be
maybe
to make a whole new thing. People talk about the rest of this season of The Walking Dead being in various states of completion, so there is some work there already.
Yeah.
But who knows what will happen with that. Anyway, this happened basically as we were coming in here this morning, so I don't have a great picture of the whole thing, but there is now a class action lawsuit being filed against the company
by former employees.
Yes.
Yeah, mass layoffs in California, there are certain things you have to do. There are circumstances that will prevent you from having to give like a certain amount of notice and all that other stuff. But generally speaking, you're supposed to be able to give, I want to say it's 90 days.
I think it's 60.
60? Okay.
Yeah, 60. Yeah. This class action suit accuses them of being in violation of the WARN Act.
Yeah.
The Worker Adjustment and Retraining Notification Act. Most businesses with at least 100 full-time workers must notify employees 60 days in advance of any plant closings or mass layoffs.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't know the legal terminology, but that sounds like a mass layoff to me.
Yeah.
At the same time, if the money's not there, the money's not there. Like, if they were, and that's irresponsible in a different way.
Right.
If they were like, hey, we are closing this funding or we are closing this business, like, that's a fucking terrible place to be too.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, man. Fuck.
Yes. Yeah. Seems like a tragic case of a deeply mismanaged company.
Man, think about this, man. Telltale, like they brought back the adventure game.
Yeah. Like single-handedly. I
Basically,
met
more or less single-handedly.
I met with the founders of that company before Bone came out. Like at GameSpot, they were going around with this little prototype of Bone, going like, "Hey, we're all ex-LucasArts. We love adventure games, and we're sad nobody makes them anymore. We're going to try to do this."
Yeah,
and then a few years later, they've got like 8,000 projects going at the same time.
They hit upon like, oh, here's a process we can use by being more story focused than puzzle focused.
Yeah.
They had, because those early games, Strong Bad, and that's Sam and Max. Like I was a big Sam and Max fan, but when they hit upon that Walking Dead formula of like, hey, this is more of interactive storytelling than straight up fucking
like there's no inventory
attach
puzzles
this rubber
here.
chicken to this thing.
This is just have conversations, and make choices, and that's the game.
And like Walking Dead won Game of the Year in a lot, in a lot of different places.
Yeah, that first season was really eye opening.
They fucking did some shit. They brought that stuff back, and then immediately. I want to say like everything that came out post that Walking Dead season 1, people were immediately just like, well, like people like definitely like The Wolf Among Us. And, not to say those games didn't have their fans, but they never reached the heights of that first season of Walking Dead.
Even the latest seasons of Walking Dead.
Sounds like especially to hear people tell it.
Like that Batman thing I remember hearing was people seem to like Borderlands.
Yeah, people like that Borderlands stuff a lot.
But I think the writing in regular Borderlands had soured me so much that I didn't even want to see slightly better written Borderlands characters. Yeah, man, it's crazy to think like how quickly those fortunes turned. But at the same time, I guess like the bits and pieces, the hints of it were there all along. Yeah, because you were seeing these games come out, and people were like, "Oh yeah, this is not as good as The Walking Dead." Not as good as this other thing.
This sort of fashion
this is
still hindsight is 2020, and I would not want to be in their position, but like it was on the management to grow their business sustainably. Yeah, in a way that was going to ensure that they didn't have to just can people with no benefits.
I remember hearing stories like when they were on the rise, it was this thing of like, oh, suddenly like we're moving buildings, we have like 4 different teams, and we need to hire people to lead these teams, and that's like that's top to bottom, it was just like they were signing IPs and building teams and building more teams and signing more IPs. It was just like the pace of it seemed alarming.
Right. Like nobody forced them to have 4 games going at the same time. Yeah. They could have approached this in a more measured way.
Sustainable.
But they did not do that. Now a bunch of people are out of work. It's rough.
Yeah.
And The Walking Dead is never getting, maybe not ever getting finished.
Yeah.
What about like season pass holders?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
I assume they sold it the same way they sell other stuff, right? You could buy the season, and
I mean, if the company is like, I don't know what they're doing, if they declare bankruptcy or what.
You're probably last in line to get your money back,
right?
After all the other creditors and everything else, right? At the end of the day, you're probably never going to see your money back, unless a platform holder like a Sony or a Microsoft steps in and goes, we're going to refund everybody that bought this because otherwise they're going to hate us too.
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah, you could see something like that happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. It's a bad situation. I don't know that it will get any better for the people involved.
I'm just
upset about they'll be out there able to look for.
Oh yeah, of course. Like a bunch of other companies, people that don't know, Telltale is local to here. They're like half an hour north, and like Ubisoft is having a job fair.
Yeah,
and I think taking them out to drinks and stuff, and like a bunch of other companies are reaching out. Like people are trying to help where they can. But what I mean is, I don't know that they will get much out of the Telltale management at this point. The way this has gone down.
Yeah.
Hopefully that
we'll see. Yeah, I mean,
lawsuit
class action
gains some traction. Maybe
we'll see.
I'm super upset about the shitheads out there that like want the people, like the devs, to like work on the rest of this these 2 episodes for like free or something like
people
that.
People have actually been saying that.
Well,
of course, somebody has been saying that.
Yeah, I know. It's fucking ridiculous.
If you love the game, you do it.
Yeah, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Fuck eating. Yeah. Live in the street and finish this game for me.
Stay tuned. Hopefully that will end up in a better place at some point. Still evolving by the day.
Yeah.